reading from the scripture that I'm going to read, which is Psalm 139. And I'm just going to read 13 to 16. And then next week, we're going to go back to the beginning and look at the beginning of the chapter. Let's listen. For it was you, God, who formed my inward parts. You knit me together in my mother's womb. I praise you, for I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Wonderful are your works, that I know very well. My frame was not hidden from you when I was being made in secret, intricately woven in the depths of the earth. Your eyes beheld my unformed substance. In your book were written all the days that were formed for me, when none of them as yet existed. The word of the Lord.
Thanks be to God.
The first verse of that section, verse 13, is translated, God created our inward parts. It's a translation for the word kidneys, actually. So literally that verse says, for it was you, God, who created my kidneys. Pete, my Pete, when he would make an obvious statement or all of a sudden understand something, he would literally point to his head and say, kidneys. In biblical times, I don't know that you knew this part. That's what's so funny about it. Although, whatever. In biblical times, it was understood that our bowels and our heart, our lungs, our kidneys were the organs where the center of human emotions existed. Today, if we went to an integrated medicine practitioner, right? A person who would seek to connect our mind and bodies, our health, kidneys are associated with decision making. So if I may say, our kidneys help us to see the forest for the trees. They help us to discern an overall pattern from a mass of details, to see a big picture or the broader, more general situation. But listen to what they do when they see the big picture. In other words, on a purely physical level, this is what our kidneys do. Our kidneys don't just remove waste or drugs from our bloodstream. They actually balance our fluids. They regulate the hormones that regulate blood pressure. They produce an active form of vitamin D. They control the production of red blood cells. Our kidneys balance our salt, potassium, and acid in our bodies. It is unbelievable to me that we have an organ that does more than just filter the bad, but then tells our body how to replenish the good. Right? So therein concludes all I know about kidneys, because I'm not a physician. But I am a theologian, so I will turn my attention back to that, and I will ask us, what do we now hear when we read the words of the psalmist? For it was you, God, who created my kidneys. It was you, God, who gave me a filtering system. It was you, God, who in my innermost part, deep within my skeletal system, you gave me not one, but 2 bean-sized pockets with the capacity to take in life, filter it, and discard what does not serve me. It was you, God, who gave me not just the ability to filter the bad, but then to tell me how to replenish the good. It was you, God, who gave our bodies the wisdom to instruct itself on how to be balanced. God has given us the ability to see the forest for the trees, to discern an overall pattern from a mass of details, to see the big picture, the broader, the general situation. And yet I can get so dug into the details, right? I can sometimes only see one tree, right? I mean, each day the information that we consume gets more toxic, right? This week, we've already prayed for it, right? A person with an arsenal of weapons killed over 50 people and wounded over 500, and we can't figure out why. Not that there's really a reason that's going to make it okay, but we're desperate to understand, because we don't understand. And every day we get more information about various places that are living without clean water, without fuel, without homes, without medicine, all because their land has been demolished by a hurricane. Come on, kidneys. get to work, right? Try to keep up because the toxins are coming in. Filter, filter, filter. That's your job. You only have one job, right? Tell me about the forest because I can only see the trees. It's hard. It's really hard not to get bogged down with discouragement or with unhappiness. We tend to take in the bad and then not know how to balance it with the good. And then our thinking becomes distorted with toxins that we've taken in. On a personal level, I've struggled to tell you any stories about Pete or how I'm doing. And if you're visiting today, my husband died 5.5 months ago. And I don't want to throw in stories just because, but at the same time, I feel like I'm not being authentic to the pastor I've always been, because I've always told you stories about what's happening to my life and how it matters. And so I will tell you that one of the primary issues to grieving is this filtering and balancing what you're thinking, your thoughts of good and bad, right? To take in reasonably unhappy thoughts and figure out where do they filter them. How do I filter them, right? And grieving has its own level of toxins, yes, right? Or death. Death has toxins. And maybe grief is the filter system. I don't know, I'm working that out in the moment here. But I will tell you that this week, my youngest son, Joe, turned 36 years old. And next week, this is why I haven't told you any stories, you guys, because I can't do it without crying. Next week, Dan will turn 41. And I could almost not breathe the whole day when Joe was turning 36. The thought that my children don't have a father anymore. And it doesn't matter that they're grown men, your kids are your kids, right? Pete used to tell a story about going to a gig. He's an avid guitar player, right? He was going to a gig down sort of by where his dad lived in Tom's River, and since it was a late night bar gig, big gig probably, he decided to spend the night with his dad's, and when he got there, it was like 2 o'clock in the morning, 'cause it's a bar gig, and you don't get off until the bar closes, right? So he gets there, and his dad's sitting up watching TV, and he says, "Dad, come on." You know, whatever, however old he was, like, "Dad, I have kids of my own, whatever." His dad says, "You don't tell me when to go to bed. You're my kid. You're always going to be my kid. Now, you hungry?" Right? So it doesn't matter that they're 36 and 41, right? They're mine. And they were Pete's kids. And they don't have a dad, and he loved them, and they loved him, and they relied on him for a lot of things, and he's not here anymore. And they're left with me. And sometimes that just seems like it's not enough. And so how do I see the forest through the trees, right? How do I filter the bad and replenish my thinking with the good? So here's what I did. That night, I laid in my bed and I found stillness. I found a quiet space, and I opened my heart as much as I possibly could. And I listened for God to tell me, what does God think of my boys not having a dad? I felt for where God's presence might be, you know? So you coming to give me a hug? Oh, you're sweet. I felt for where God's presence would be, which currently was with Gwen, who gave me a hug, right? I listened to the words of the psalmist, because the psalmist said that God knows me, that God knows us, that God knew Pete, and God knows Joe, and God knows Dan. God knows the shooter in Las Vegas. God knows our legislators. God knows everyone in Puerto Rico. For it was God who created our innermost parts. God knew us when we were being made in secret. All the days that were formed for us, God knew before any of them existed. Now, wait a second, does that mean that God has orchestrated early death or disease of my husband? Does it mean that God orchestrated a mass shooting? No, it does not. It says that God knows us and our days. It does not say that God controls us and our days. Control is not the same thing as sovereign. We are not puppets in the hand of God. It's much worse, actually, than being puppets in the hand of God. We're human. And humans will get sick. Humans will die. Humans will hurt one another. We will kill one another. And God knows all of it. We are human and we are fragile and we are vulnerable to weather. God knows all of it. We are human and we will cry, we will laugh, we will worry, we will love, we will show compassion, we will give of our resources to the helpers in war-torn areas, in hurricane regions. God knows all of this. God knows the forest, and God knows every single tree. God knows our world, and God knows us. In his book, Telling Secrets, Frederick Buechner says, what is perhaps the central paradox of our condition, that what we hunger for perhaps more than anything else is to be known in our full humanness, and yet that is often just what we also fear more than anything else. That we are known, that we desperately want to be known, but maybe not this one part of me, because it's really ugly. Right? The psalmist knew the secret of being known. When we allow ourselves to be known, to be laid bare before God who knows us, that's when we find how to filter the toxins. That's where we find balance. That's when we see the forest for the trees. That's when we can see the overall pattern from the mass of details that we take in. Finding stillness, finding a quiet space, opening our hearts, listening for God, feeling for God's presence with us. God knows this day. God knows this moment. God knows this moment. We will only ever be able to live this day the way that God intended if we live it fully, openly known by God. Amen.